and I was talking to my wife, and she insists that doing a simple oil change video would actually appeal to a lot of the really green beginner do-it-yourselfers. So anyhow, I'm gonna show you how to change the oil in this car here. This is a 93 Impreza with 93 Subaru Impreza with 1.8 liter engine, but this is going to be the same procedure for most 4-cylinder Subarus from 1990 through to today. Obviously, on some of the specifics, you're going to want to check your owner's manual, such as exact quantity of oil and exact type. Now for this engine here, we're going to be going with 4.2 quarts of 10W40 oil, just conventional oil, whatever's on sale. And let me quickly show you what tools are involved here. Actually, the only real tool at all is a 17mm wrench. Here I actually have my half-inch drive socket wrench with a 17mm socket attachment. But if you just have a simple 17mm wrench for the drain plug, that's just fine too. Right here you can see my drain pan. And the orange funnel there is for filling the fresh oil into the engine. That red thing there is actually the top of an old oil can, and I use that as a funnel for disposing the old oil. And the drain pan itself obviously is to catch the old oil as you drain it out of the engine. Right here I have the oil filter. I'm going to be using an STP filter today, and that is the part number right there, the S2869. And I also have a rag there for for wiping up little drops of oil, and also noting I'm wearing rubber gloves, which does help with cleanup. And right here is some of the oil I have, as I said, conventional 10W40. So that's really all that's involved. So I'm going to get started here with the procedure itself. Now, I have driven the car a few miles, so it's nice and warm. And I also have the car up on ramps now. Now, if you don't have ramps, with these Subarus, there actually is enough ground clearance where you can do this oil change without raising the car up. This just makes it a lot easier, but it's doable enough without raising the car in the air. So the first thing I do here is release the oil filler cap. That way, when I release the drain plug from the bottom, the oil comes out a little easier. So next, I'm going to get the drain pan here. Move those funnels out of the way. And obviously there's this plug here. You want to unscrew that, because right there, that's where the oil drains into the pan. And there's also an air hole on this side right here. So this is one of the more fancy drain pans you can get at the auto parts store. They also have ones that are just more or less like a shallow bucket. You can use pretty much anything you want to drain the oil. Just make sure it's something that's going to be sturdy enough so when you pull it out from under the engine you don't spill everything. So, but anyhow, that's my drain pan. So next I'm going to grab my wrench and get under the car. That sound you hear is the creeper that I'm lying on. You don't necessarily need to have one of those. Once again, it's one of those things that I think makes it easier. So, before I go further, this is right here underneath the center of the engine, and you're going to see this plug right here. This is a 17mm drain plug. So you get your wrench on there, and you loosen it. Doesn't take too much, so then you can probably get the rest of this out by hand. In fact, I'm going to shut the video off for a minute so I can do that and get this draining. So, okay, I figured I'd put on a night shot there. As you can see, I have the oil draining out. And right when I removed the bolt there, it was gushing out. But it all drained out pretty quickly, and once again, that's because I had the car out, I was driving it, and now it's up to operating temperature, and that really helps drain the oil out. So you can see it's kind of drizzling right now. I'm going to wait until it's just barely dripping before I put the drain plug back in. Okay, so as you can see, the oil is now completely drained out, and I have tightened the drain plug back down. So I'm just going to grab my tool here and show you this. This here actually, it's not an oil filter wrench. This is a pair of oil filter pliers, and it's not quite the same thing, but it accomplishes the same task. I do generally prefer these because, as you can see, it's got these teeth on the wrench here, which really do help to bite into the filter and loosen it. So, first let me see, and I know I did this oil change myself, but sometimes I tighten these down. Yeah, that's, I could probably get that by hand, but may as well make it a little easier on myself and use the tool. So, grip it here, so at the, and grip the wrench kind of tight so it bites into the filter, and as you can see, that gets it turning pretty quickly. It's not an expensive tool. Don't remember exactly how much I paid, but as I said, generally not expensive. So, and that's loose now. I can just do the rest by hand. So obviously you see oil starting to drip out here now. I'm gonna let that go a second because that's warm. Hot really, so. And obviously you still want your drain pan right here positioned directly under the filter, because you are going to lose a little bit more oil there. So, alright, that's pretty well drained out. It's a little more difficult for me because, keep in mind, I am holding a camera here. Okay, so as you can see, I put the filter upside down there in the drain pan to drain out, and now the rest of the oil is going to drip out here. So next I'm just going to quickly show you preparing the new filter. Okay, so next step, as I told you, is preparing the new filter. And there's not much to do, but what you do is you take it out of the box here, and you can see that's the new filter. It's not the exact same one as the old one, but it is the correct size. So, is there anything left in this jug? Yeah, there's a little bit in here, just a drop. That's all you need. Basically, what you want to do, and this is another great reason to be wearing gloves. So I'm going to tip this upside down here and just get a drop of oil there on the thumb of my glove, and you basically just want to spread that around here, get just a couple of drops on the filter gasket. Need just a little more here, and in theory I think that helps you get it a little tighter and prevents leaks. So okay, that's basically good to go. Okay, so back under the engine here, and I did wipe off the oil filter flange there a bit, but you can see it's still dripping out just a hair. That's okay for our purposes. So you can see the filter has this threaded portion right here in the center, which matches up to the that fitting right there. So you just put that on by hand. And at this point, of course, it's good to have wiped your hands off on that rag I showed you before. And you just spin this on clockwise by hand and get that as tight as you can. Basically, it's you want to tighten this down to about when it makes contact with the engine, then try to go another half turn or so if you can. And a very important word of warning here, you do not want to use a tool to tighten this. You really just want this hand tight, but as I said, you got to get it pretty much as hand tight as you can. And you're not going to damage anything by tightening this by hand. Okay, so that should pretty much do it for this, and then I'll show you what to do up top. Okay, we're back up top here. So remember before, this is where we took the oil cap off. Now I'm done on the bottom of the engine. I have tightened down the new filter, and the oil drain plug is nice and tight, so I'm not going to get any leaks out of there. So here I'm going to take my first quart of oil and pour it in here. Now a funnel's not necessary, but it does make this easier and cleaner, and prevents you from spilling all over the engine. Because if you do that, you're most likely going to get it on the exhaust or the engine block, and then it's just going to kind of smoke and smell until it burns off. So you can leave that in there and get the next quart. Let that drain out a few seconds. So we're going to fill in 4.2 quarts. I'm going to fill in the 4 quarts. I won't show you that step by step because it's just 4 times what I just did. And then I'll show you how to measure the 0.2. Okay, I have the 4th quart of oil in here now, and just one quick note on that. You can see I'm using 2 different brands of oil here, but the really important thing to note is, see where it says 10W40? And it also says 10W40 on this one here. That's the most important thing. It's not a big deal to mix brands, but you just want to use the same weight. So I had some of the old stuff, the orange one, and bought a couple of quarts of the green stuff today to finish out the oil change. So just incidentally, in the winter I run 10W30 in this engine, but in the warmer weather I run 10W40. So okay, now I've got 4 quarts in there. I need 0.2 quarts more. I want to show you this here. On the side of the jug, you can see there's actually a numerical gauge in milliliters and ounces. So now when this thing is full, it's 1,000 milliliters roughly, or actually 946 because it's 1 quart. But basically, you want to look at where the oil level is on the side here. And this is an open quart, so it's resting there just above the 600 mark. So I want to fill it, I want to pour slowly into the engine until it's just above the 400 mark. And that'll be full then. So that's what I'm going to do. And incidentally, you don't want to overfill the engine. That's bad, and you don't want to underfill it either. And if your car's like this one and you have an old engine and it's leaking oil, you're going to want to check it once in a while. Because if you're leaking oil or burning oil, you're going to have to top it off before you change the oil. Otherwise, you run low and you damage the engine. So keep that in mind. I'm going to fill in the last 0.2 right now, and I'll just show you how quickly that goes if I can get this cap off with one hand. Actually, put this down for a second. Okay, sorry about that. I needed my right hand, so as I showed you, it's just above the 600 mark, so just gonna pour a bit. Not too long, and I'm going to check that again. And just a hair more there. And yeah, obviously you want to hold this level for checking it. And maybe just a drop more. Okay, that's about right there. I overshot it by a little bit, but that little bit should be just fine. Like I said, you want to try to get it exact, but if you overfill by about a tenth of a quart, it probably won't hurt anything. So, and obviously I wouldn't have overshot that even by anything if I weren't also filming. So I'm going to put down the funnel, get that out of the way here, and then put the cap back on. Okay, the oil is changed, but there are actually 3 more steps that I would like to show you. So give me 1 second here. Okay, right now we're in the car, and I'm looking at the odometer, and that says 297,207. 297 miles, 297,207 miles. So the reason I'm taking note of the mileage reading is because I keep a little maintenance log here in the glove compartment. I just use a little notebook for this, and more or less anytime I do an oil change or any kind of repair or maintenance, I write down the date and the mileage. So the last thing I did in this car was roughly a month ago, and that was actually more like actually close to 2 months. Was valve cover gaskets. So I'm gonna quickly jot down the date and mileage here. So give me 1 second. Edit that out. Okay, I've got my pen here, so I'm gonna write this down, and doing 2 things at once. I'm writing and I'm filming. So I want to say today is the 17th. And I think that was 297, 207 miles. Oil plus filter. My beautiful handwriting there. Okay, the second to last step here is, of course, disposal. So see, I've got the old oily oil filter here. Got messy while taking it out of the engine, so I'm going to take the box from the new one, slip it over there, and just keep it like that to keep things clean. Then next I have a gallon jug here from a previous oil change. This is empty, so I'm going to unscrew the cap there. And you don't need an oil jug for this. Anything will do. Even a milk carton, just make sure that it doesn't spill on you. So, remember I showed you this before. This is the top I cut off an old oil jug, and that slips right there into the mouth of the gallon jug. So, you take your oil pan here, and I'm going to have to unscrew the cap. I can't really film this because I definitely need both hands, but you just fill it all into the jug there. Okay, now that you've got the oil, in a container, it's very important to dispose of it properly. Of course, that means you never, ever, ever pour this down the drain. You don't want to do that. At least in my state, pretty much you can take oil back to more or less any place they sell oil, in which case I'm going to go to the auto parts store right around the corner from my house, and they have to take it. You go in, you tell them you have a jug of old oil, and they will take it from you and dispose of it, no charge at all. So there should be plenty of places you can do that. I think most mechanics will take it for free too. A lot of mechanics actually use this to power heaters for their garage. So as I said, dispose of it properly. And the old oil filter and the little jugs you saw, the 1 quart cans, those empty cans, all of that goes in the household trash. So I got one more step to show you here. Last but not least, you want to start this up and just make sure everything's okay. And mental checklist quickly. Drain plug is in and tight. The new filter is in and tight. 4.2 quarts of oil are in the engine. And the cap is back on the oil filler. So I'm going to start this up now. And I want to, before I actually crank it, I want you to see, let's turn night shot off once again. That little, at least on the early Imprezas here, that icon right there, that is an oil can, and that indicates oil pressure. So normally when you start the car, that goes out instantly. Now right after an oil change here, that little red light is going to stay on for a couple of seconds. I just want to show you that. And it's out now. Basically the new oil had to circulate up into the engine. So the car is running all right. It's got fresh oil, ready for disposal of the old oil. I've taken note of the mileage, so we are pretty much all done here.